Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Fantasy Headliners. We haven't even really officially reached day one of free agency, but day two of the tampering period brought a lot more moves and more to break down. But one of those signings in particular, definitely need to talk about that one because it is one that could affect what will probably be the consensus number one overall pick in all formats next year, Christian McCaffrey. That's right, the Carolina Panthers have basically at this point said we're moving on from Cam Newton and we're bringing in Teddy Bridgewater to be our starting quarterback. And this has a lot of fantasy implications that come with it. Can Teddy Bridgewater get it done and make these fantasy assets viable in all formats? Let's talk a little bit about the deal that we have. Signing with Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater, 3 years, $63 million. That is the last number I heard. Doesn't sound like it's official as of yet, but that's the number that's roaming around right now. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that number moving forward. If it ends up being 63 or if it's a little bit more, a little bit less. But like I said, too, Teddy Bridgewater and Cam Newton, now they've already basically done their farewell on Twitter as well. Cam Newton got a little farewell there, and they said that they've given him permission to seek trades. There's been a little bit of a back and forth as well because Cam Newton has said, I didn't ask for a trade. I've been told I can seek a trade. So we'll see what ends up becoming of that. But all we know at this point is for sure Carolina is moving on from Cam Newton. It sounds like Teddy Bridgewater is going to be that guy. Let's talk a little bit more about Teddy Bridgewater and what he brings to the table for Carolina in 2020 and even beyond. And we have to kind of look at a small sample size last year with the New Orleans Saints. When Drew Brees went down with his injury, Teddy Bridgewater stepped in and went undefeated as a starting quarterback. 5-0 in his 5 starts. Basically played 6 total games during that time because that first game was when Brees ended up leaving the game and coming back in. So these stats are based off of those 6 games. From the time that Brees left till the time that he came back, Teddy Bridgewater was 132 for 195, 1,370 yards. So average about 228 yards per game, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The one thing I will tell you with Teddy Bridgewater is that at times last year, it didn't seem like he was really pushing the ball down the field. He had weapons there in New Orleans that didn't really expect him to push the ball down the field either. So the game plan last year, I don't think might reflect what we're going to get from Teddy Bridgewater. I want to be careful how I say that because I don't want to disparage his signing at all. However, wanted to just kind of, give you a heads up that he didn't really push the ball downfield too much, which is what he would need to do a little bit more to make DJ Moore kind of what we saw last year and to kind of help prop Curtis Samuel up a little bit more even as well. So can he get 2 wide receivers into the top 24 wide receivers and have Christian McCaffrey be basically a top 5 running back, possibly a top overall running back? It remains to be seen, but the good news is that he's coming into a system that works for him. He worked with Joe Brady in New Orleans. Joe Brady, again, he is the new offensive coordinator in Carolina. Brady was actually an offensive assistant when Teddy Bridgewater was in New Orleans. So this is an offensive scheme that's going to be running that he's going to be familiar with. So he's not going to be stepping into a situation or a playbook that he's going to have to take a long time to learn. It's really going to be getting familiar with the weapons around him. Two basically players I want to take a look at from last year. Again, Teddy Bridgewater didn't really push the ball down the field. His average intended air yards last year was 6.2. That's lowest in the NFL. That's basically your air yards per target. So basically 6.2 air yards per target. His average completed air yards was 4.6. So for every completion he had, 4.6 air yards. That was the second lowest. Again, he didn't necessarily need to push the ball down the field last year for that offense to function, but I think he might have to do it a little bit more this year. In that time frame, one to take a look at, Alvin Kamara had 41 targets or 6.83 targets per game with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm last year. So good to see that. For Christian McCaffrey owners, it's good to see that Teddy Bridgewater was using his running backs to their ability, including Alvin Kamara last year. So he's going to be able to do that. He's very accurate, gets the ball out very quick on those passes. So Christian McCaffrey, I'm not expecting too much of an issue for. Michael Thomas, he had 65 targets, 640 yards, 52 of those 65 targets were receptions, 12 yards per reception. So during that time, 10.83 targets per game, 8.6 receptions per game, 106.6 yards per game. Thing with that is he didn't really have a whole lot around him other than Alvin Kamara in that passing game. It was Jared Cook. Even though he was really good at the end of the season for the Saints, that wasn't until after Drew Brees really came back. So be careful. Be careful with that. Just know that if you look at those Thomas numbers and say, well, he's going to do the same thing for DJ Moore, it's not necessarily going to be that way because they had to force the ball to Michael Thomas last year. So this is an offense that's going to fit Teddy Bridgewater. It's an offense that is going to be creative with the weapons that they have. Again, a new coaching staff there. Joe Brady, again, really like him. Matt Rule coming over from Baylor. He's a guy that I really like as well. I think he's going to be really creative with the offense. They went and got Teddy Bridgewater for a reason. They're moving on from Cam Newton for a reason because they think Teddy Bridgewater can run this offense. And a lot of speculation was that they might take somebody in the first round, but this here shows me that they feel like that they have a team that can win sooner rather than later, and that's why they're bringing in this quarterback right now in Teddy Bridgewater. So again, a 3-year deal, $63 million. We'll see how much of that is guaranteed money and things of that nature, and that might help us understand a little bit better what exactly they plan on doing at that position. Maybe they do spend a draft pick there, but maybe they move back. I don't know what's going to end up happening. We'll have to wait and see with the draft, but signing Teddy Bridgewater to me feels like they have a team that can win right now. It doesn't necessarily feel like they're moving on and they're not going to compete or anything like that. I've heard some people talk about the Carolina Panthers as a rebuild. I don't really feel like that either. I know they've lost some pieces this offseason, but I like the offense. I like where we're heading, but we need to digest this information a little bit more. Christian McCaffrey still #1 overall running back for me right now, especially in PPR leagues. He's going to get fed on the ground and through the air. DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel might get a little bit of a bump down for me until I know for certain that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to push the ball down the field on a consistent basis. If he can do that, then this offense becomes extremely, extremely dangerous. So as of right now, DJ Moore, probably a wide receiver 2 for me. And then Curtis Samuel, I'm probably looking at him as more of a low-end wide receiver 3. But that, again, super early. A lot of that can change. But that's what we're looking at right now with this offense. Teddy Bridgewater, again, headed to Carolina on a 3-year, $63 million deal. Cam Newton on the way out. They're going to be moving on from him. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the guy to, fingers crossed, we're going to have to kind of hook ourselves to this offseason and say, man, you've got a lot of fantasy weapons around you. We got to get those. And don't forget either, Ian Thomas is a guy with Greg Olsen out of town that a lot of people were getting excited about. Is he still going to be a sleeper tight end for us? Well, don't worry. We'll talk about him more as we get closer to the season as well. So there you go, Headliner Nation. This is one of the big signings here today. Again, nothing official until the first day of free agency. Recording this on basically the second day of the tampering period. First day of free agency coming up tomorrow, and deals can become official. And trust me, a lot more to come. Headliner Nation, thanks so much for tuning into this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, turn on the bell notification so anytime we drop new content, you're going to know about it. And of course, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think is going to happen with this Carolina offense. Are we still thinking Christian McCaffrey 1.01 overall? Are you a little bit weary of DJ Moore now? Do you think Teddy B is the guy to get it done in Carolina? Thanks so much, Headliner Nation. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the next video.